My husband, Officer Jason Steele, had a sweet childhood friend named Candy Brooks. One day, she fell from the second floor and suffered a concussion. Without hesitation, she accused me of pushing her. Jason didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. Blinded by anger and wanting to stand up for Candy, he ignored my desperate pleas. I was pregnant, but he still ordered the guards to drag me away and lock me in solitary confinement. When I was finally released, I was covered in blood. I had lost the baby. Jason looked shaken. He gently took my hand and whispered that we were still young, that we could try again for another child someday. I gave him a cold, bitter laugh. There would never be another child between us. That baby, I had ended its life myself, punching my own stomach until I couldn't feel it move, because I knew the truth. Jason and that unborn child would eventually turn against me, just like Candy did. They would trap me again, take away my dignity, and leave me with no way to survive. In my previous life, I had been weak. I let others trample over me. But in this life, I would change my fate before it destroyed me again. Years later, I became one of the wealthiest and most powerful business figures in the region. Meanwhile, Jason Steele, who had once climbed the military ranks so easily, ended up with nothing, a broken, forgotten man. "Comrade, your baby has suffered a serious blow," a voice echoed near my ear. "You're showing signs of a threatened miscarriage. You must stay in bed for the next few days, or we might not be able to save the child." The pain in my abdomen throbbed, spreading through my entire body, dragging me back into consciousness. Slowly, my vision cleared. I saw old, red slogans on green-painted walls and worn-out wooden doors. It looked like a hospital from 40 years ago. But hadn't I already died? Jason had sent me to prison, after 5 years behind bars. I had been diagnosed with terminal cancer and died in unbearable pain. If I was dead, then why was I seeing this again? Before I could make sense of anything, the hospital room door flew open. A young man in military uniform stormed in, his face full of fury, and came straight to my bed. "Lena Carter, how could you be so heartless and push Candy? Do you even realize she nearly..." The words rose in my throat, but I didn't speak. What was the point? Last time, I denied it. I tried to explain that it wasn't me, but Jason never believed a word. He only believed Candy Brooks. Jason shouted, his face twisted with anger. My eyes fell on his younger face. So much younger, he looked like he was in his 20s. Sharp features, a tall nose, intense eyes, even filled with fury. He was striking. In my past life, I had loved that face with all my heart. I had humbled myself, given up my pride, and poured all my devotion into him. In return, I was destroyed. Even when Candy framed me, even when Jason threw me in jail, even when I was diagnosed with cancer and left to die, I still missed him. I still longed for him. I used to think it was all Candy's fault. I believed Jason had simply been deceived. I thought he was innocent, until the day I realized my end was near. I begged the doctor to let me see Jason and our son one last time, but they rejected me without a second thought. The doctor gave me a look of pity and said Jason had taken Candy on a vacation overseas for her birthday. He had no time for me. He said I should use my time to reflect on my mistakes in prison. Even my son sent me a message: "If you're going to die, just do it already. Stop embarrassing us. Don't make things harder for Dad." I was already at the edge of death. I took one final breath, spat blood, and collapsed. I never thought I would open my eyes again, yet here I was, staring at Jason's younger face, the man I once adored, the man who betrayed me over and over. The love I had once felt for him was long gone. In my past life, if Jason had just told me honestly that he loved Candy, I would have walked away. I would have stepped aside, no matter how deeply I loved him. But he never admitted it. He kept saying he only wanted to repay her kindness, that he saw her as a sister. But under the mask of gratitude, they did everything in secret. Selfish, shameless things that tore my life apart. I spent my whole life like a supporting character in their twisted romance. The heartbreak I suffered before I died turned into a hatred so deep I could barely contain it. I stared at Jason, locking eyes with him. If I could, I would have sunk my teeth into him, just to let out even a fraction of the rage I carried, for the broken, pitiful woman I once was. But Jason didn't notice anything strange in my expression. He kept yelling, "I never thought you'd turn out to be such a vile, shameless woman. Don't think being pregnant will protect you. Lena Carter, this time, I won't let you off the hook, Jason said coldly. I gave a slow, mocking laugh. And how exactly are you planning to do that? I asked calmly. I want you to apologize to Candy. And I want you in solitary confinement. Think hard about what you've done, he ordered, his voice sharp with authority. The same routine all over again, just like in my past life. Jason handled everything in exactly the same way. He laid out 2 conditions, giving me no chance to fight back. First, I had to apologize to Candy Brooks and admit I was wrong. Second, I had to accept punishment through solitary confinement and reflect on my actions. There was no room for negotiation. No one believed my side of the story. In the end, I had no choice. I apologized for something I never did. I hoped, just maybe, Jason would show some mercy for the sake of our 5 years of marriage, or at least because I was carrying his child. But I was too naive. The moment I was discharged from the hospital, Jason coldly ordered the guards to take me straight to solitary confinement. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I pleaded with him. I told him I was pregnant, begged him to think of the baby, and said he could punish me later, but Jason did not even flinch. He looked me in the eye and said I was cruel and unrepentant. He said I needed to suffer to learn my lesson, to ensure I would never act this way again. 7 days, locked in a pitch-black room, I counted numbers in the dark, desperate for the moment someone would open that door. Jason never came. The guards forgot about me, a pregnant woman, locked away like a criminal. It was not until Jason came back from escorting Candy to the Capitol for her medical treatment that he remembered I was still inside. Any ordinary person would not have lasted 7 days without food or water. By the time they dragged me out, I was in a coma. It was a miracle I survived at all. Dr. Song worked around the clock, doing everything he could to pull me back from the edge, but the damage had been done. 7 days without a sip of water or a single bite of food had ravaged my body. My organs had begun to fail. I developed a chronic stomach condition. Looking back, it was probably one of the reasons I eventually got terminal cancer. After I was finally released, Jason showed a flicker of guilt. For a while, he treated me with unusual tenderness. I wanted to believe it meant he loved me. Because I loved him, I chose to forgive him. But later, Candy told me the truth. Jason only treated me well out of fear. If I had died in that cell, especially while pregnant, it would have ended his career. It would have been a scandal he could not survive. At the time, I did not believe her. I clung to the illusion that Jason loved me, that he had only been misled by Candy. I kept lying to myself. I fell into one toxic cycle after another. Looking back, I was pathetic, until the very end of my last life. I refused to let go of the fantasy that Jason still cared for me. But in this life, I remember everything. I will never again be fooled by Jason Steele's polished exterior. Love should never come wrapped in so much pain. I looked him straight in the eye and said clearly, word for word, I did nothing wrong. I will not apologize. You have no right to throw me into solitary confinement. Jason's expression darkened with rage. Are you sure about that? He growled. I am sure, he sneered, so stubborn, so blind. Then do not blame me for what happens next. The veins on his forehead bulged as he shouted toward the door. Take Lena Carter to solitary. Let her think it over. The guards came to seize me. In my past life, I would have kept quiet. I would have let them drag me away without a word, just to save face. For Jason and for myself, but not this time. The moment their hands touched me, I screamed with everything I had. Murder. Jason Steele is trying to kill me and my unborn child to protect his mistress. Candy Brooks, I am innocent. Jason never expected I would throw away my pride and shout like that. Heads turned, people stared, whispers spread like wildfire. His reputation began to crumble. Panicked, Jason lunged toward me to cover my mouth, but I was burning with fury. I bit down on his hand, hard. The taste of blood filled my mouth. Sharp and metallic, his face twisted in pain. Of course it hurt. But that pain was nothing compared to what I had suffered in my last life. As they dragged me away, people stared. They whispered as I passed. What did Lena Carter do to end up in solitary? I heard she pushed Candy Brooks down the stairs. Candy was badly injured. That is why Commander Steele had no choice but to punish his wife. I guess she brought it on herself. Lena has always seemed quiet and kind. Hard to believe she could be so cruel. Is she pregnant? Her forehead is still bleeding. Commander Steele did this to her, for someone else, that is heartless. Commander Steele really is too protective of Candy Brooks. Some say he owes her a debt and is just repaying it. Even so, this is too much. Lena Carter is carrying his child. Even the law does not treat pregnant women this harshly, especially not for something like this. Commander Steele is clearly playing favorites. Anyone can see that. Jason's face turned pale as the crowd's voices swirled around him. Never in his life had he imagined that someone like me, always quiet, always composed, would humiliate him in public. After I was locked inside the solitary room, he spat out his final words before slamming the door. Lena Carter. I never imagined you would become such a disgrace. I was going to keep you in here for 7 days. But clearly, that is not enough. Make it 2 weeks. The door shut behind him. Darkness swallowed me whole. I had spent 7 unbearable days locked in that cold, dark cell. I lost consciousness at one point and nearly froze to death. Just when I had finally recovered, Candy Brooks framed me again. The stress triggered an early labor. I went through unimaginable pain to bring that child into the world. I bled so much that the doctors had to remove my uterus. Even then, I poured all the love I had left into that baby. My only child, but that child grew up just like his father, Jason, cold, heartless. He adored Candy and despised me. His own mother. The memory of everything I had suffered in my past life made a bitter smile creep across my lips. That child, I was not going to give him a second chance to hurt me. I clenched my fists and, one blow at a time, began striking my belly. Half an hour later, my screams echoed through the concrete walls. Guards rushed over and unlocked the door. They found me lying in a pool of blood. I had miscarried. My clothes were soaked in red. They carried me out and rushed me to the hospital. Jason had been sitting at Candy's bedside when the guard delivered the news. The moment he heard I lost the baby, he jumped up and ran out. Not even noticing the satisfied smirk on Candy's face as she watched him leave. After the surgery, I was wheeled out of the operating room. The first thing I saw was Jason standing there with a dark expression. He stepped forward and reached for my hand. "Get out," I said, my voice flat and cold. Jason froze in place, stunned, and slowly stepped back as the nurse pushed me past him. But he came again, following me into the hospital room after the 4 had been set. This time, he wore a rare look of sorrow. Was he really mourning the baby? As if, in my past life, that awful boy always told me that if he had not existed, Jason would have divorced me to be with Candy. He believed Jason only stayed married to me out of guilt. Now that the baby was gone, Jason should have felt nothing but relief. He walked toward my bed, his steps hesitant. I stared at him, my face expressionless. No sadness, no anger, just a hollow void. He reached out, maybe wanting to touch me. But when he saw the ice in my eyes, he stopped and slowly pulled his hand back. "Lena," he said stiffly, "I did not expect things to turn out this way. Just focus on recovering. We are still young. We can have another baby." Another baby? I almost laughed. Was that supposed to make me feel better? Word of my miscarriage must have spread across the entire base by now. Commander Steele, the man known for his discipline and righteousness, had shown not an ounce of mercy to his own pregnant wife. People were definitely talking, and with Candy involved, the rumors would only grow. Jason's obvious favoritism toward her was well known. I was certain gossip was already spreading, and I was more than willing to add fuel to that fire. Just then, a nurse rushed in and called out to Jason in a panic, "Commander Steele." Comrade Brooks fainted. Apparently, Candy had learned that I had miscarried and was on her way to see me, but her body was too weak. She only made it a few steps before collapsing in the hallway. This had always been her favorite move. In my past life, it worked perfectly every time. But maybe this time, things would be different. Jason immediately ran off, leaving me alone in bed, sobbing and screaming. My cries were so loud that nurses, doctors, even nearby patients all rushed in to see what had happened. When they realized I had lost the baby, they surrounded me, trying to comfort me with kind words. Many of them wiped away tears as they listened to my story. That was when I started telling everyone the truth. I told the nurses, doctors, and patients everything Jason and Candy had done behind my back. Ever since Candy showed up, Jason, the man whose name was on my marriage certificate, had been slipping further and further away from me. He gave her a job. gave her more than half his salary to spend however she wanted. Candy clung to him constantly, always trying to stir up trouble between us. She always had a reason to call him away, even late at night. She would say she was scared of the rain or the thunder, and Jason would stay with her all night long. And then she had the nerve to say she would get rid of my baby, just to force a divorce between me and Jason. Everything I said was true. People on the base had seen it all with their own eyes. They just had not known the two of them were spending nights together, a man and a woman alone behind closed doors. As I spoke, I could see the expressions on everyone's faces begin to shift. They listened, and their eyes filled with a mix of shock and disbelief. The fact that I had just lost my baby while Jason rushed to Candy without a second thought only made things worse. No one could ignore it now. Everyone had heard what I said, from the looks on their faces. I could tell it would not be long before the entire base was talking about Jason's affair with Candy. Jason was soon called in by his superior. He insisted he and Candy were innocent, that he was only helping her out of gratitude. His superior, who had always been fond of Jason, believed him. But outside that office, the rumors were already spreading like wildfire. Still, he was warned. Jason had been told to watch his behavior and keep his distance from Candy when he came back to the hospital. His face was thunderous. The moment he shut the door, he turned to glare at me. "Lena Carter, you almost ruined me with your recklessness." My superiors confronted me. "Do you realize what that could mean for my future?" I looked at him and curled my lips into a faint smile. Good. I hoped it would ruin him. In my past life, I endured everything in silence. The humiliation, the pain, the betrayal, all while Jason and Candy lived carefree and unbothered after going through such a miserable life once. How could I let them live smoothly in this one? Now that I was reborn, I planned to make things much less comfortable for them. Jason had no idea what I was really thinking. He still believed I loved him, still thought I cared about his future more than my own. He assumed I would do whatever he said without resistance. He looked at me seriously and said, "From now on, you need to clear up those rumors one by one. Let everyone know there is nothing between me and Candy. That our relationship is purely like that of a brother and sister." I tilted my head and gave him a look. "Brother and sister. That is strange, because as far as I know, you two are not related by blood." Jason's face changed at the sight of my mocking smile. "If I had any romantic feelings for Candy, do you think I would have married you?" he snapped. That was the same line he used to fool me in my past life, and back then, I was naive enough to believe him. But hearing it again now, I could not help but laugh. My laughter was cold and full of sarcasm. His face darkened. "Lena, this is not the time to be jealous or petty. This mess happened because you refused to listen. I am warning you, stop this, or I will divorce you." Divorce, that was exactly what I wanted. Great. I said without hesitation, "Let's do it. Let's get divorced right now." He was caught off guard. His face froze. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "I am not joking," I said calmly. "Why should I share my husband with another woman? Let's end this now. You go your way, and I will go mine. We can each find our own future." His face turned red with anger. "Lena, we are in a military marriage. Do you think divorce is that simple?" "So what?" I said. "You plan to keep sacrificing yourself forever. Or maybe you want your precious Candy to remain the other woman for the rest of her life." The term other woman did not even exist back then. Jason blinked in confusion. "What do you mean by other woman?" I did not explain. I simply looked him in the eye and said, "If you want me to believe you, then from now on, you are not allowed to see Candy again. No contact at all. Can you do that?" To my surprise, Jason agreed. "From now on, you will handle everything related to Candy," he said. "I promise I will not meet her in private again." This was a change that never happened in my last life. Jason Steele, ever obsessed with his career, had thought it through and decided to back off for the sake of his promotion. It was just what I expected from someone like him. But Candy Brooks was not the type to give up so easily. I was certain she would not stay quiet for long. If Jason stopped seeing her, she would definitely try to cause trouble. I was looking forward to it. After all, I had been given a second chance. I would reclaim every bit of the pain and shame they once forced me to swallow. Candy had no idea Jason had chosen to stay away from her to protect his career, so she kept playing her usual games. She pretended to be sick and fragile, lying in a hospital bed just like before, waiting for Jason to come rushing in. But days passed, and Jason never appeared. She could not bear the silence anymore, so she had others pass along messages, exaggerating her condition, trying to guilt him into visiting. When Jason heard she had supposedly coughed up blood, he panicked. But his superior had been clear, there would be consequences if he stepped out of line. He did not dare, so in the end, he came to me instead. Candy, convinced that Jason was finally on his way, was full of anticipation. But when I walked into her hospital room, her face instantly twisted with fury. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "I came to see you," I replied lightly. "Wanted to check what new tricks you're trying this time." I strolled slowly around the room. "They said you were dying. But you look just fine to me. Your lips are red, your teeth are white, not a hint of weakness. Candy, don't you think this sick and pitiful act is getting a little old, exposed?" Candy dropped the pretense. Her smile turned cruel. "Lena Carter, it must have felt awful to lose your baby, right?" she sneered. "I am the one who caused it, but Jason does not care about you. He only trusts me. For me, he is willing to betray his own wife. That must kill you inside. You are overthinking it," I said with a calm smile. "If losing that child means Jason will stay far away from a woman like you, then it was worth it. Candy, you probably do not know yet," I added, "Jason is not coming to see you again." She froze. "What do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I said. People are talking. Everyone is saying you and Jason have an improper relationship. He is trying to protect his reputation now. That means staying away from you." Candy looked completely stunned. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice shaky. I smiled calmly as I walked over to her hospital bed, stopping just beside her. "Do not worry," I said softly, standing tall above her. "I will explain everything." I leaned in, my eyes cold. "Candy, I know exactly what kinds of filthy schemes are swirling in that twisted mind of yours. You wanted the child in my womb dead. You wanted to drive a wedge between me and Jason so you could take my place. So I helped you. I gave you exactly what you wanted." Her eyes widened as I continued, my voice like ice. "I was the one who ended the pregnancy. I was the one who spread the rumors about you and Jason." "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That is not true. You are insane. You loved that baby. You loved Jason. You were obsessed with protecting his image." The disbelief in her expression quickly shifted into fury. She finally understood just how serious the consequences of my actions could be, both for her and for Jason. "You are vicious," she screamed. "You used your own child just to get revenge on me. You are a monster." I gave her a cold smile. "Compared to you, I am nothing." "Lena Carter," she hissed through gritted teeth, her eyes blazing. "From now on, I will make you suffer for everything you have done to me." "Is that so?" I raised an eyebrow, amused. "Well then, let us see who wins this time." Without warning, Candy let out a high-pitched scream and slapped herself hard across both cheeks. The sharp sound echoed through the room, red marks bloomed instantly, and a thin stream of blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. She licked it off with her tongue, then glared at me with pure hatred in her eyes. Suddenly, she shrieked. "Lena Carter hit me. Somebody help." She jumped off the bed and dashed toward the door barefoot, but only managed a few steps before I grabbed her by the hair and yanked her back with all my strength. She had not expected me to fight back. In the past, I was always the quiet one, the gentle wife who avoided conflict, who swallowed her pain in silence, but not anymore. With both hands, I clutched her hair and pulled hard. Candy cried out in pain, her face twisted in agony. I slammed her head against the wall. Once, then again. She never saw it coming. The force of my rage stunned her. She shrieked wildly until, finally, her body went limp and she collapsed, unconscious on the floor. I stood over her motionless body, breathing heavily, then I wiped my face and let the tears fall freely. Hearing the noise, several nurses rushed over from the hallway. When they saw me crying uncontrollably, with tears streaming down my face, they stopped in their tracks and asked, "Comrade Carter, what happened? Who did this to you?" They were all familiar with me. During my hospital stay after the miscarriage, many of the staff had shown me kindness. Not a single one of them liked Candy Brooks. They had long seen through her act, pretending to be sick, lounging in bed all day, always full of arrogance. Her behavior irritated everyone. Sobbing so hard I could barely speak, I cried, "I am finished. It is over." Candy slapped herself and claimed I hit her. Now she is lying on the floor pretending to be unconscious. The nurses exchanged glances. Everyone knew Candy only dared act out because Jason Steele was protecting her. Her self-righteous attitude had already worn thin, and once they found out she was interfering in my marriage, their dislike for her turned into disdain. I continued to cry. What am I supposed to do now? I cannot prove anything. Even if I jumped into the Yellow River, I could not wash away this accusation. If Jason hears about this, he will definitely believe her. I am done, truly done. One of the nurses gently placed a hand on my shoulder. That is enough, Comrade Carter. Do not be afraid, we will stand by you and testify. Thank you, I sniffled, but she is still on the floor pretending. What should we do about that? We will go in with you and take a look, another nurse said, with several of them beside me. We returned to the room. Candy was still lying on the ground, eyes closed. Playing unconscious, the nurses stared down at her, their faces filled with contempt. One of them said coldly, "Enough already, drop the act and get up." But, of course, Candy remained motionless, still crying. I knelt beside her and gently reached out. "Come on, Candy, stop pretending." As I leaned in, I slid a sewing needle deep into her lower back. It was a thick, sharp needle I had brought just for this, at least 6 or 7 centimeters long. Anyone could imagine how painful that would feel. The moment it pierced her skin, Candy, who had been so convincingly unconscious, screamed in agony. Her eyes snapped open in pain. I quickly pulled the needle out and hid it in my sleeve. The shock made her sit up instantly. When her gaze met mine and she saw the triumphant smile on my face, she completely lost control. Without thinking, she raised her hand to slap me. But before she could, a nurse caught her wrist in midair. "What do you think you are doing?" the nurse snapped. Other nurses rushed in and held her down. Candy froze. She had always been clever and quick-witted, skilled at manipulating people. But now, caught off guard, she struggled to react. After a moment, she slipped back into her usual pitiful tone, her eyes welling with tears. "Lena Carter attacked me," she said, trying to sound broken. "She slapped me. She grabbed my hair and smashed my head into the wall. She did it on purpose. I want to call the police." She thought that by accusing me, she could gain sympathy, but the nurses only looked at her coldly. "That is enough, Comrade Brooks," one of them said sternly. "Stop pretending. We know you are putting on a show and trying to frame Comrade Carter. That kind of behavior is unacceptable. You need to correct yourself immediately." "I'm not faking it," Candy insisted, clutching her head. "It really hurts. My face is killing me, and my back. Someone stabbed me." Of course it hurt. The needle had gone in deep, but nobody believed her. The nurses stood firmly by my side. "Don't worry, Comrade Carter," one of them said reassuringly. "We saw everything. We'll testify for you. It's obvious Candy staged this whole scene." Candy's head throbbed, her face stung, and the spot where I had jabbed her with the needle burned, but none of it mattered anymore. No one was on her side. One of the nurses shouted that they were going to call the authorities. Another pulled out Candy's flimsy medical file. "You're not even sick," she said. "You faked symptoms just to occupy a hospital bed. We're reporting this." Candy's bravado crumbled. She had always been able to manipulate Jason Steele because he favored her, protected her, but these people weren't her friends. They owed her nothing. They certainly had no reason to defend her lies. Those watching from nearby had already made up their minds. Everything was obvious. Candy realized the longer she argued, the worse it would get. So, she swallowed her anger and stayed quiet. As the nurses escorted me out of the room, I glanced back at her. I gave her a slow, smug smile, one that said this was only the beginning. After giving Candy a small taste of what she deserved, I returned home in a surprisingly good mood, only to find Jason Steele, who was always busy, actually sitting in the living room. He had bought my favorite tangerines and even brought back some sweets. The moment I walked in, he asked, "How's Candy doing?" So he really was worried. I bet if his promotion hadn't been on the line, he would have gone straight to the hospital himself. Without emotion, I replied flatly, "She's doing just fine, still has enough energy to frame me, after all." Jason frowned. "What do you mean?" "I went to see her, just like you told me to," I said. "I even brought her fruit, but she threw it across the room, slapped herself in the face, pretended to faint, and accused me of assault. If the nurses hadn't witnessed everything, I'd be in serious trouble right now." "That can't be true," Jason muttered, his expression making it clear he did not believe me. "If you don't believe me, ask the nurses yourself." Not one, not two, 4 of them saw it. Jason fell silent, which was rare. After a pause, he finally asked, "But why would she do something like that? You really don't know." I looked at him directly. "She told me I'm not good enough to be your wife, that she's the one who truly deserves you." His face darkened. "Lena, not this again. How many times do I have to tell you? Candy and I are like siblings. There's nothing between us." I let out a bitter laugh. "But you're not actually siblings, are you? Whatever the case," he said with a stern voice, "my conscience is clear," yet he still had the nerve to warn me. "Just behave, Lena, don't cause any more trouble for me." Maybe he realized he was being too harsh, because his tone softened a little. "Just listen to me. Be good, okay? About the baby, I was wrong, I'm sorry. We'll have another one in the future." He said it as if giving me a child was some kind of reward, like he was offering me a prize for good behavior. But what he didn't know was that I was no longer the same woman. I would never carry another child for Jason Steele. He was dreaming. After the blow I gave her, Candy did end up with a real concussion. She had to stay in the hospital for several days. But even then, she did not give up. She used the hospital phone to call Jason again and again. When that failed, she sent messages through others. And when nothing worked, she showed up in person. She knocked on our door, trying to look like a fragile porcelain doll. But as soon as she stepped inside, she saw Jason sitting at the table, having lunch with me. Just as he placed a piece of rib into my bowl, Candy froze. She stared in disbelief. "Jason, are you really ignoring me now?" Her face was still swollen, and her pitiful expression might have stirred some guilt in him. "Candy, how could I not care about you?" Jason said softly. "I've just been really busy." Then she ran into his arms, sobbing. "I thought you didn't want me anymore, Jason. I was so scared you'd leave me. You promised my parents you'd always take care of me." Mentioning her parents, who had once done Jason a huge favor, made his face twitch with guilt. I had expected Candy to take this chance to accuse me, to report what I had done to her at the hospital. But she had gotten smarter. She said nothing about it. Instead, she played the nostalgia card, digging into Jason's memories, pulling at his emotions. Then, with tears still in her eyes, she turned to me. "I'm so sorry, Lena. I didn't mean to make things hard for you. Once I recover, I'll ask for a transfer. I'll leave, so I won't come between you two anymore." And just like that, she dropped to her knees in front of me, bowing again and again, begging for forgiveness. I had to admit, her strategy, retreating to advance, was a clever one. Jason's heart melted immediately. He rushed over to help her up. "Lena is not the kind of woman to hold grudges," he said gently. "Candy, you're not going anywhere. Stay here. It'll be easier for me to take care of you this way." Candy let him lift her up, looking deeply moved, and began reminiscing about the past. I could not stand another second. I stood up and walked away, but inside, I knew exactly what Candy was doing. She had learned her lesson. She was no longer impulsive, no longer quick to accuse. This time, she was playing it smart, playing the long game. She was slowly drawing Jason back in. Bit by bit, by making him feel sorry for her. I wandered outside for a few hours. When I came back, Candy Brooks was gone. Jason Steele was sitting alone in the living room. As soon as he saw me walk in, he said, "Lena, let's talk." "Sure," I replied, taking a seat across from him. "What do you want to talk about?" "Candy." Jason reached out and took my hand. "Lena, I really only see Candy as a sister. Her parents helped me so much when I was younger. I owe them more than I can ever repay. And she is their only child. I feel responsible for her." "That's fine," I said flatly. "If you feel the need to repay their kindness, I will not stop you. You can do whatever you want with Candy. You do not need to report to me. I do not care." "Please don't say it like that," Jason said, clearly frustrated. "You've misunderstood. You think there is something inappropriate between me and Candy, but I swear there isn't. I only see her as a sister. The only person I want to spend my life with is you." In my previous life, hearing him say those words would have made me fall in love with him all over again. I would have believed every word, wholeheartedly and without question. But I am not that woman anymore. I am not the hopeless romantic who once believed love could conquer everything. I slowly pulled my hand from his grasp. "Got it, I understand. Is there anything else?" Jason looked surprised by how calm I was. Then he reached for my hand again, gripping it tightly. "Lena, I'm heading out on a mission soon. I'll be gone for a while. While I'm away, I need you and Candy to get along. She promised to listen to you, and I'm counting on you to take care of her. I'm leaving her in your care. Just wait for me to come back." It almost sounded like he was passing her to me, like a responsibility. I raised an eyebrow and said, "All right, I'll be sure to take good care of your dear Candy." Jason left with his team for a mission in the south. Before he went, he reminded both of us again and again to live in peace. Candy and I both nodded politely, but we knew the truth. Peaceful coexistence was never going to happen. Candy would never give up, and neither would I. When Jason returned, there would be a reckoning. One of us would win, one of us would fall. The determination in our eyes was clear, and it was mutual. On the first day after Jason left, Candy and I acted like the perfect pair. She called me sis in the sweetest voice and helped around the house, cooking and cleaning like a devoted little helper. On the second day, she bought me a new outfit and a pair of shoes. She even invited me to the movies, clinging to my arm affectionately in front of everyone. She made a show of our closeness, making it seem like we were the best of friends. We were seen together constantly, supporting each other like the ideal sister-in-law duo. It was as if none of the past drama had ever happened. On the 10th day of Jason's absence, Candy knocked on my door early in the morning with a cheerful smile and a tray of breakfast. "Sis, I have the day off. Let's go for a walk by the river." "Okay, sure," I agreed easily. She had already packed a lunch and some snacks, linking her arm with mine. She led us out the door. Whenever we passed someone we knew, she greeted them warmly and told them we were going on an outing together. By the time we reached the edge of town, a dozen people already knew about it. We brought our food and rode a shared bike to a small river nearby. Just before we arrived, I clutched my stomach and said I needed to find a bathroom. I walked away for a while. When I returned over an hour later, Candy was waiting by the riverbank. She was pacing back and forth, clearly irritated. Her eyes were sharp, filled with impatience. I even heard her mumbling to herself. I cleared my throat. "Candy, sorry to keep you waiting." The moment she turned around and saw me, her expression changed completely. The irritation vanished as if it had never been there. "Sis, look how beautiful the scenery is here," she said sweetly. "Let me borrow someone's camera and take a few photos of you." I nodded without hesitation and stood by the riverbank while she snapped a few pictures. A few times, she laughed and lunged toward me playfully, like she wanted to hug or grab me, but I was standing at the edge of the water, so I made sure to step aside each time, just enough to stay out of reach. I laughed freely and without fear, while her smile slowly grew colder. After several failed attempts to get close to me near the river's edge, Candy finally gave up for the moment. She laid out a picnic blanket and began unpacking the food. She placed the blanket deliberately close to the water, sitting on the side farther from the edge and leaving the spot nearest the river for me. "I'm starving. Sis, come eat," she said cheerfully, handing me a plate with a bright smile. I kept my eyes fixed on her, unblinking. "Go on, say it. What are you really planning?" She let out a dry, insincere laugh. What could I possibly be planning? I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. "I know what you are trying to do. You wanted to drag me into the river with you, make it look like I pushed you in, and now that it failed, you are trying something else." I watched her face go pale. "Let me guess," I said, my tone sharp. "You tampered with the food, trying to set me up again." Her smile faded. "Candy, do you really think I would be foolish enough to let my guard down around a poisonous snake like you? Not after everything I have been through." She sighed. "So, you figured it out. I thought I could keep fooling you for a few more days. I guess I underestimated you." The mask dropped. She did not bother pretending anymore. "Lena Carter," she said coldly, "since you already know, there is no point hiding it. Today is the day you die." Then she lunged. I was sitting with my back to the river. She pounced, grabbing me as we both tumbled into the cold water. It was exactly the same as before. Same river, same trap. In my past life, she had done this, pushed me into the water and screamed that I had attacked her. People believed her. I was accused of attempted murder. Jason Steele, loyal and upright, turned his back on me and chose justice over his own wife. Back then, Candy's plan had worked perfectly, but that was 30 years later than now, and I was not the same Lena Carter anymore. When she invited me to the river this time, I already knew what she was planning. I knew she had arranged for people to watch and accuse me. So I played along. I let her set the trap, because I had set one too. The moment we hit the water, I grabbed her hair and shoved her head under, holding her down until she choked, her eyes rolled back, her limbs flailed, and just as she lost consciousness, I dragged her toward the bank. I slammed her head against the jagged rocks again and again. Blood ran down her once beautiful face, but I did not stop. In my past life, I lost my ability to bear children because of her. That kind of pain cuts deep, a wound that never heals. This time, she would feel it too. I had already placed a piece of rebar near the riverbank. When the moment came, I forced her body onto it. It pierced through her lower abdomen. Blood gushed out, mixing with the river. Only then did I pull her by the hair toward the shore and scream for help as if I were the victim. Her so-called witnesses appeared right on cue. Candy was rushed to the hospital. I lay on the grass, soaked and shivering, a cold smile curling on my lips. Now it was Jason Steele's turn to perform. He returned a week later. The second he heard Candy had been injured, he ran straight to the hospital. She had survived, but just like me in my last life, she had lost the ability to become a mother. Her injuries were even worse than mine. Her once flawless face was now disfigured, covered in scars and pits. Candy sobbed uncontrollably in Jason's arms, accusing me of trying to murder her. She had waited for this day, dreamed of it, but it had not turned out the way she imagined. She was broken, inside and out. I was untouched. Of course she regretted it. She could not understand how I had fought back so fiercely. She could not accept that the prey had turned into the predator. But it was too late now. She had no way out. Candy was determined to destroy me. She wanted Jason to take responsibility for her and use his guilt and sense of duty to do it. Just like last time, she played her part well. Jason exploded in anger the moment he heard I was involved. Candy even brought in the same kind of people she used before, paid witnesses who all pointed their fingers at me. Their testimonies sounded believable. They said that since Jason had left, I had been bullying Candy, that she tried to make peace by buying me gifts, doing housework, even inviting me for a picnic by the river. But I, supposedly heartless and unstable, turned on her and tried to drown her. They claimed they saw me with their own eyes, holding her underwater, with witnesses and a full story. Once again I was painted as the villain, and just like before, the path ahead seemed clear. Prison. Jason was furious. He could not believe I would do something so cruel. His heart ached for Candy. He promised her he would make it right. Meanwhile, I stayed home, waiting for what I knew was coming. In the quiet days before Jason returned, I packed my things. I sold nearly all the furniture, even the bicycle. I stitched every penny I earned into the lining of my clothes. I had everything planned. This time, I would end it all on my terms. The door burst open with a loud crash. Jason stormed inside and grabbed me by the collar, lifting me off the ground. Lena Carter. Why did you do it? I pried his fingers off my shirt. Jason, what if I told you this had nothing to do with me, that Candy set this up from the start? Would you believe me? Do not even try, he snapped. He was furious. Just like before, Candy cannot swim, and you can. Do you really think she would be stupid enough to plan something that put her in that much danger? As always, he refused to see the truth. Jason refused to believe that Candy would ever put herself in harm's way. He glared at me, his voice sharp with anger. Even if she did frame you, why would she go so far as to get disfigured? Why would she give up her ability to have children? I gave a cold laugh. That is easy. Her plan went wrong. It was never meant to spiral out of control like that. You are insane, Lena, he snapped. You think I am supposed to protect you no matter what, that I will blindly defend you no matter what you do. You committed a crime. This is serious. This could mean jail time. I know, I answered quietly, keeping my voice steady. But I did not do this. Candy brought it on herself. You still refuse to admit what you did, Jason shouted. You are more vicious and shameless than I ever thought. If you insist on ruining everything, do not expect me to show mercy. I am not letting this go. Good. I said flatly. I have been waiting for this. It was unfolding just like it had in my past life. I had long since stopped expecting anything from him. Yet, somehow, a faint ache still lingered in my chest. I looked at him and asked, so, how do you plan to punish me this time? Jason, furious at my calmness, he kicked the sofa hard. You are going to the hospital. You are going to apologize to Candy. I am not apologizing. then get ready for prison, he growled. I am telling you, Lena Carter, I will never allow a woman like you to be my wife. Once you are locked up, I will file for divorce. Perfect, I said without flinching. I have been hoping for that. I reached into my bag and pulled out a divorce agreement I had already prepared. Here, sign it, let us be done. Jason stared at the papers, then at me. You planned this. You knew I would ask for a divorce. No reason needed, I said calmly. Just sign it. His face twisted with rage. He snatched the pen, scrawled his name across the paper, and threw it at me. Here, as you wish. I bent down, picked up the signed agreement, and stood up. Jason had already stormed out. At the door, he turned to throw one last threat at me. Just wait, the police will be here for you soon. I let out a cold laugh, holding the document tightly. I headed straight to the Civil Affairs office. An hour later, I walked out with 2 divorce certificates in hand. Everything had gone smoothly. For the first time in years, I felt an odd sense of relief. Now all that remained was the police investigation. But I was not afraid. Candy was not the only one who could prepare witnesses. I had lived a whole life before. I knew how to plan better than she ever could. Before the police had a chance to come to me, I went to them first. I brought my evidence, filed a report, and laid out everything clearly. What I presented was irrefutable. Candy knew I could swim. That was why she laced the food with sleeping pills. Her plan was to knock me out and let me drown. But I had seen through her scheme. Because of that, she was forced to improvise. She meant to stage a drowning, making it look like I had pulled her into the water. But I had anticipated every move. I had already lined up witnesses. Nurses from the hospital. They were the ones who sent the tainted food for testing. They also saw Candy push me into the river. They confirmed that she had bought a large quantity of sedatives with her own name. As for how she ended up so severely injured, that part was simple. Candy could not swim. She had terrible luck. Her face struck a rock, and a floating steel bar pierced her abdomen, destroying her uterus. There were no fingerprints, no forensic evidence. Rocks and steel bars do not testify. This time, she had no way to fight back. I handed everything over and accused her of attempted murder. The case was solid. Because of her injuries, the authorities decided to wait until she recovered before making the arrest. As for me, I was no longer Jason Steele's wife. I had no ties left to bind me. Without looking back, I bought a train ticket and headed south. Candy had never been my real goal. Yes, she was wicked, but Jason was no innocent bystander. He had enabled her, protected her. Getting rid of Candy alone was not enough. I knew what was coming. Without me by his side, Jason's life would fall apart. In my past life, I had helped him at every turn. Now, stripped of my support, disaster was the only path left for him. I waited patiently for karma to do its work. With the past behind me, I threw myself into building a new life. This time, I knew exactly what to do. Step by step, I climbed. I started from nothing. But within 5 years, I had made my mark. When China's wave of economic reform began, I was among the first to seize the opportunity. I started my own business, expanded rapidly, and over the next decade, I became the country's first self-made female billionaire. I opened branches across the nation, extended my reach, and began using my wealth for charity. I never thought I would see Jason Steele again, but fate has a way of circling back. It happened at a charity event in Jiangxi, of all places. More than 10 years had passed. Jason was no longer the proud military man I had once known. He was in a wheelchair now. I stood on stage delivering a speech. He sat quietly in the audience, eyes fixed on me. When our eyes met, mine were calm, his were full of disbelief. I saw his lips move. I could not hear the words, but I read them clearly. Lena. After the donation ceremony, I got into my car, ready to leave, but Jason rolled his wheelchair in front of the vehicle, blocking my path. Lena, he said, do you know how long I have been looking for you? I looked at him silently. I never meant to send you to prison. I never meant to divorce you. I was just angry, Jason said, his voice low and strained. I tried to convince Candy to drop the charges, but by the time I did, you were already gone. So this was his long overdue apology, his attempt at regret. But even if it was genuine, why should I care? I stood there, calm and unmoved, seeing my cold expression. Jason's face darkened with disappointment. He mumbled, Lena, I had no idea Candy would turn out to be so cruel. I was fooled by her from the start. Back in his 20s, Jason Steele had been a strikingly handsome man. But now, as I looked straight into his eyes, I spoke slowly and clearly. Could you move? I am in a hurry. I need to meet my husband and son. Today is our 6th wedding anniversary. You are married? Jason asked in a stunned whisper. You have a child. His face turned pale as he slowly backed his wheelchair away. My driver started the engine. Just then, Jason called out suddenly, Lena, I had a dream. In it, you still loved me. You never gave up on me. We had a son, didn't we? I rolled the window down and looked at him with a soft smile. I bet your dream had a few other details too, I said. Like how you ignored me for Candy. Like how you sent me to prison because of her lies. Like how your precious son, who was not mine, was just as heartless and biased as you were. Jason's face turned white as snow. And, I added with a sweet but icy smile, did your dream also include the part where you were badly injured trying to earn a medal, when Candy fell to her knees and begged a famous doctor to save your life, and how grateful you were, how you spent the rest of your life repaying her? His eyes widened in shock. How do you know that? You do not need to worry about that, I replied calmly. But let me tell you something. Do you know why, in this life, after your so-called heroic act, you ended up in a wheelchair and never recovered? It is because I did not travel hundreds of miles to beg some expert to save you, like I did in your dream. That is why you are paralyzed now, because in that life, the one who saved you was not Candy, it was me. Jason looked at me as if the world had just crashed down around him. No wonder, I said, letting out a bitter laugh. Did your dream also show me being diagnosed with terminal cancer and dying slowly, miserably, in prison? What were you thinking, Jason? You must have felt relieved. Once I was dead, you could finally marry Candy without guilt, right? No, he shouted, panicked. That is not true. I did not know you were going to die. I thought you were lying about it. By the time I came back, it was already too late. I regretted it. Lena, I really did. Is that supposed to be your grand apology? I asked quietly. What am I supposed to do with that now? He whispered. Lena, I know now. It was all Candy's fault. I did not go easy on her. I punished her. She just got out of prison. Her life is miserable now. Good to know, I replied, my voice flat. I rolled the window back up and told the driver to go. As the car moved forward, Jason's figure in the wheelchair grew smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. Watching him like that, broken, hollow, fading into the distance, I finally let out a long, deep breath. For the first time in this life, I felt truly free. I had no more regrets. Just then, the car phone rang. I picked it up. It was my husband, his voice warm and full of joy. Lena, our son and I are waiting for you. I am almost home, I said with a smile. No one can live forever in the past. Jason Steele was just a chapter that had long since closed. Now, I had a husband who truly loved me and a sweet, wonderful son. In this life, I would never again rely on a man or place my faith in one. I would be my own queen. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.